Hi guys, I'm Claire and you are watching Rent to Grown. I'm so sorry that I didn't post on Monday, but today I've got a really good video for you. My friends have questions. I'm friends with some city folk and some of them have some vague gardening experience, but none of them want to farm or homestead or really be any more self-sufficient than they already are, and they have some questions for me. So I'm gonna get home so that I can share their questions with you and provide some answers. So the first question was, what is the most difficult part of homesteading because you rent? Like, what makes it so difficult? And the answer that I have to that is that homesteading is absolutely a labor of love. Homesteading itself is providing for your household. And farming, you expect to make some money out of it, and homesteading, you probably don't. It's more about saving money or working differently so you can spend less money. And the fact that I live on someone else's property does cause some of that labor, some of that work to be wasted, because I can't do what I want with this property. I can't change it very much to suit our needs better. And it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to do that anyway, because we're not renting to own. We're likely going to be leaving this place here in the next year or two. So it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to dump a bunch of money into something that's temporary. It's also a really good way to get burnt out, because a lot of the things that you do as a homesteader, like putting in an in-ground garden and establishing your plot and working fertilizer and different compost and stuff like that into the soil, you end up having to do that over again over the course, for me it's been over the course of the last almost a decade. I've done it several times over, and that's something that you won't have to start from scratch every single year when you have your own property. So it can be really easy to get burnt out doing that, and I'm trying not to do that. The next question was, what sorts of laws and rules and regulations do you have to keep in mind when you are renting and homesteading? And that is a really great question. Not only do you have to keep in mind your usual state, county, city, township, various laws and ordinances in mind, you also have to be very familiar with the terms and conditions of your lease. Your lease is not exactly a law, but it is a legally binding contract between you and your landlord. If you're thinking about homesteading and you have questions as to whether you are able to do certain things, please ask your landlord for clarification. This is not a situation where it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, because if you do it the wrong way around, it could cost you a lot of money when you move out. On that same note, make sure that if you do get clarification of your lease from your landlord, that you get it in writing. This is to protect you and to protect them. Make sure you get everything in writing. Even if it's just a text message or an email or something, get it in writing. My boss asked me this next question. He knows that this is the lifestyle that I want to pursue ultimately, and we were talking about the challenges of homesteading and renting, and he was like, why bother? Why would you even try to do it while you're renting? Why don't you just wait? That is a really valid question. I get that fairly often, usually from my family and friends who aren't so convicted about doing really much of anything. My answer to that is that it makes me immensely sad in the depths of my soul to not have a garden and to not have animals in some capacity, even if it's just pets. So I can't wait. I need to grow things and I need to love things, and I would be doing a lot of this stuff anyway. I have to. It is in my innermost being. And I think also there are still a ton of things to learn about yourself and about what you want and what works and what doesn't work in different situations whenever you are doing it on a small scale. And often when you rent, that is what you have to do, is work on a small scale. And I think that just because that learning is a little bit different and you don't get to carry the physical rewards with you when you leave, those experiences definitely help you grow as a homesteader, and maybe you even get to make mistakes somewhere else on someone else's property, but hopefully not to the tune of a financial burden for either you or your landlord. And that leads me into my last question. Are there any benefits of renting while you try to homestead? And the answer is largely no. There are a lot of challenges, a lot more challenges, I think, to not owning your own property, and those are pretty obvious. That's why a lot of people don't do it or recommend that, you wait. And that's the cold hard facts of it. But I've never been one to do things the easy way. With that being said, it really has been a blessing for me to be able to gradually practice different techniques that I will be able to use later on. And I've gotten to do that in several different states with crazy different growing conditions. And, I've jumped like 5 zones or something, So being able to work with different soil types and, totally different seasons. Like in the part of Florida I was in, there was no winter. It was like wet and dry, and you don't get that in many other places in the US. And I would have to also mention that it has made me incredibly resourceful. Like I mentioned earlier, I haven't wanted to put any money into other people's property, and also I've been pretty broke. So it's made me be really resourceful. I still want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm gonna have to figure out how to use alternative materials and alternative measures to get what I want. And that's been incredible. Alright guys, well I hope you have enjoyed these questions. If you have any other questions, then please leave them in the comments below or shoot me an email. Make sure that you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Snapchat if you're into that. And I will, see you around. Bye.